This is the podcast overview of Chapter 11, Groups and Individuals. So 1, define what is meant by a group. What is needed to call something a group? What does it need to consist of? And then identify how roles, status, norms, and cohesiveness allow a group to function. So these are all terms that we've covered in previous chapters, and now they're all kind of coming to a pass in how we will understand them as people relate to one another in the dynamics of a group. So role in the group matters, your status in the group matters, what the norms of the group are matter, and then how cohesive or together the group is. Is it a close-knit group or not so much? 3, outline the benefits and the costs associated with joining a group. So groups have many benefits, which is why we like to be a part of them. But there are also some costs that come to being in a group that we might not always consider at face value, or sometimes get hidden because of the benefits that we think about. 4, understanding the power of the situation and the roles one plays within a group at dictating one's behavior. So when you're part of a group, you play by the rules. Every group has their own rules. Every group has their own roles within that group, like who's who in the group. Are there leaders? Are there followers? Are there distinct lines as to how one is to conduct themselves, job titles, duties, etc., and how might those play out in the particular situations that the group might face or be a part of. Define what is meant by social facilitation and provide a detailed overview of how this topic has been studied throughout social psychology's history. So social facilitation has been studied for a long time. What is it? Why is it important? And in how many different domains do we see it operating? How can it affect us in a group setting? Explain why social loafing occurs and the ways to reduce that. Very different from social facilitation is social loafing. Happens when we are in a group of people. So understand what it is, why it occurs, and what we can do about it. Define and give reasons why de-individuation occurs. So this is big. We've talked about de-individuation in previous chapters. We really start to see it manifest and come out most when it's spoken of in the context of group dynamics. It's when we are in a group that we are less of an individual. So why is that the case? What are the reasons for it? Contrast the terms cooperation and conflict. These are two key areas of research within group situations. Does it mean to cooperate, and then what does it mean to have conflict? Explain the dynamics of a social dilemma. So that is a particular term inherent to social psychology. What is a social dilemma? What does it mean? How does it operate? And why is it important? Discuss how reciprocity, personal orientations, and communication all can influence the occurrence of cooperation. How do these different things play a role in whether or not people cooperate with one another? Identify the basic nature and causes of conflict, as well as ways to reduce it. So what in a group causes conflict? We've been able to zone in on some key areas in group dynamics, and then how can we fix that? Explain the importance of perceived fairness in groups, and in doing so, identify and describe the 3 main categories of justice. So here's, I think, the best crossover between law and social psychology. This is where the two kind of really meet head to head. in terms of understanding the different ways that justice comes about in our legal system, and then consider how individuals react to feelings of perceived unfairness. What role does maybe perception play in that? Outline some of the social decision schemes that a group may decide to pursue when a group is taking on a decision-making process. What can play a role there as they're doing that? Discuss the nature and consequences of group polarization. So what is group polarization? Why does it occur? And what are the consequences of it? So already you can tell it's not a good thing. Why is that? Then discuss the nature and underlying causes and consequences of groupthink related to group polarization. Usually group polarization can happen as a precursor to groupthink. The two are different though, so understand what each means. And be able to think of some examples of when groupthink has happened throughout history. Your textbook gives you some good ones. And then consider how and why the devil's advocate technique and authentic dissent may improve group decisions. So whenever we have a group trying to convene on a topic, come to some conclusions and some decision making, it can be helpful to have someone play the role of devil's advocate. What does that mean? Why is that good? And also authentic dissent can be a good thing for group decisions. So make sure you understand what both of those mean.